in Detroit or in Wayne County, which has Detroit, Dearborn, and another big city, 98% of the poll watchers appointed are Democrats. So all the mechanisms are in place for them to steal the election, and that's what they're going to do. You can see how it's unfolding in the press. If you remember back in July last month, the news was that Camilla is just totally unpopular. She has no support. Nobody wants her. Now, what is the news? She's leading. She's the leading candidate. She's ahead of Trump. She's such a powerful candidate, such an attractive candidate. This is all being orchestrated for the public's benefit so they can steal the election. You can't steal the election for a person who's low in the polls. So you create all these fake polls to make it look like she's winning anyhow. So of course they didn't steal the election. Look, the polls, she was winning. Well, you know how they get these polls? They don't poll Republicans, or they don't have the right weight of Republicans in the polls. So they're mainly polling Democrats. So that's how they get Camilla in the lead. But the people don't know this. They just hear a snippet on the news. Camilla leads Trump by 4 or 5 points. So if they hear that from now until November, they'll simply assume Camilla won. She might get 40% of the vote. I doubt it, but she might. But since everybody expects that she's going to win because that's what they've heard from the media all these months, they won't realize it's been stolen. And some of these Democrat jurisdictions have now made it illegal, as I understand it. It's now illegal to challenge the vote count. So even if you have evidence that fraud has happened, if you bring it forward, you have committed a felony and they arrest you. So you can see how far gone the system is, Rashid. I mean, you're completely correct to see that and say that. And I'm just giving illustrations that back you up. That's all I'm doing. I think you've diagnosed it correctly.
And so when we look at the system, like you were just talking about the Trump and the Kamala situation, do you believe that if Trump loses, there'll be civil war or civil insurrection?
No, I think the American people are worn out, exhausted, and they'll accept anything.
Wow.
Look, they accepted all the lies about COVID, the vaccine. Remember, the vaccine is safe and protective. It's killed more people than COVID. They accept all the lies about 9/11. Remember the lies about how they captured bin Laden and buried him at sea. And we have all the lies about Saddam Hussein's weapons of mass destruction, and all the lies about Assad's use of chemical weapons, all the lies about Ukraine, all the lies about Iran. Look, we've accepted the Israeli genocide of Palestinians. Most Americans are in favor of it. They'll accept anything. I just don't think there's any fight. I don't think there's any fight in the people. Look, how long have we had open borders? Years now. This doesn't benefit any American citizen. No American citizen benefits from having your country overrun. I mean, why do we worry about national defense when we let in 3.6 million immigrant invaders every year? What is the point of worrying about national defense? I mean, so I just don't think there'll be any kind of protest. Look what happened to Trump and his lawyers who protested the theft of the 2020 election. They had a lot of evidence. I mean, the evidence was strong. Well, Trump was indicted for interfering with the election because he challenged the vote count. Well, if the president of the United States, and this happened to him while he was still in office, so if the president of the United States can't raise a question about the vote count, how can anybody?
And I was suspended off these platforms multiple times for bringing up the challenge to the elections or whatever. They suspended me. They even one time deleted my channel because I brought up. I said, "How in the world can you question the legitimacy of Venezuela's election or question the legitimacy of Putin's election in Russia or the other lead? But in the so-called land of the free, you have no right to question the legitimacy of the elections at home." And they threw me off of YouTube for a while. And I was even suspended. I was doing the show live, Mr. Roberts. This is the truth. You can go back and look at it. And YouTube suspended me live on the air while I was streaming. So yeah, the censorship is out of control. But I want to ask you about Israel and the genocide and the slaughter in Gaza, in the United States already being in a hole economically. Why is she deploying massive amounts of weapons and warships to defend Israel when it's not in her interest economically, politically, or militarily? These are more these will be more fissures in the cracks of the dam of American empire if she continues to antagonize people that buy her debt. Are they thinking? That's what I want to know. Are the leadership, the leaders of America and the West thinking, because we're in a tailspin economically?
Well, Rashid, probably the most powerful interest group that influences our government is the Israel lobby. They have, over many decades, positioned Israel as the oppressed, the underdog, the Holocaust. Everyone wants to get them. Everybody's an anti-Semite. They have infiltrated the Christian evangelical churches, many of whom seem to worship Israel rather than Jesus. and really, they're called Christian Zionists. And in fact, I think the largest evangelical church is the one run by that fellow named Hagee.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically worship Israel. Now, and then also you have to keep in mind that every year the American taxpayers, they give several $1 billion to the Israeli government, and that money comes right back and buys our elections.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot get elected by opposing Israel. If you take if you criticize any Israeli policy, you won't be elected. If you're in office and you start criticizing it, you'll lose the next election. There are no successful cases of senators or members of the House taking issue with an Israeli policy and surviving. It can't be done. And nobody even tries. Look, it was just recently, wasn't it, that Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, was invited by both parties to come address Congress. And he got, 53 standing ovations. Now, this is a guy that's slaughtering Palestine, killing everybody in Gaza, pushing them down. The plan apparently is to push them out into the Egyptian desert. And they've now started on the remnants of the West Bank, and they're forcing them out of the West Bank into Jordan. And so here we have a massive, horrendous slaughter of people, theft of their country and of their lives. And the guy responsible gets 53 standing ovations from Congress. So this shows you the strength of the power of Israel over the United States. So you can't expect any thing along that line to change. Now, you raised the question of all the warships and jet fighters and troops that we have allocated in the area of Israel. It's not there to protect Israel. It's there to attack Iran, assuming, and Israel has been pushing us to do that for many years, assuming that we can cause Iran to do something that justifies us attacking them. And that's why the two carrier task forces are there. That's why I think the division of American paratroopers are still there. So many jet fighters have been located there. So that's all in preparation for attacking Iran, assuming we can get that in the works, get Iran to do something that gives us an excuse. So it'll be a great increase in war there. I think also the war in Ukraine is going to explode because we are now giving the Ukrainians permission to use our long-range missiles to attack deep inside Russia. Well, the Russians are not going to tolerate that. So, and moreover, the Iranians can't operate the weapons. They're operated by American officers. So you see, we've got two big wars that could explode, even at the same time. One in the Middle East, one in Europe. So, and you rightly raised the question: how can a government get itself in such a mess as we have? And it's that the various interest groups that control the government have got us in that mess. That's what's happened. The Israelis have got us in that mess. The FBI, the CIA, the armaments industries, they've got us in that mess, you see. So that's the mess we're in, and there's no way out of it. If you take a position against the wars, if you're in the Senate or the House, then you lose the campaign contributions from the armaments companies. You see, they would go to your opponent. If you take a position against Israel, you'll lose those contributions. They'll go to your opponent. And so people are basically unable to function. They can't do anything except appease the people who finance their campaigns and keep them in power. And that's the problem.
I remember former two-time Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney. She told me that you have to take an oath to Israel when you're in Congress now. Which blew my mind. And she and I were holding this conversation. She and I go way back. But I wanted to come back to a point about the deployment of the troops and the ships and the crisis with Iran, Israel, and the United States. Now, they want to attack Iran, and Israel has been pushing them to do that for years. But has any strategic thinker called in any of the finance people in Washington, and say, listen, this is our economic situation right here, to initiate a war or to be involved in a war in the Middle East against Iran would cripple the American economy if Iran shuts off the Strait of Hormuz and if one or two of those carrier groups are hit or sunk. I mean, do they, because they have money and they have all of these think tanks, do they analyze that, Mr. Roberts?
Well, some of them might realize that. and may be aware of that, Rashid, but they can't say that because then guess who finances the think tanks? The military security complex, Israel. So if you start talking against what the military security complex in Israel want, there goes your financing. Your think tank hadn't got any more money to pay the thinkers. So that's a simple explanation. You have to understand these think tanks are financed by people whose interests are served by the reports that come out of the think tanks. So, and most of them are financed by armaments companies, and the big military airplane companies. So you got Lockheed Martin and you got Boeing. You see, these are sources of finance for foreign affairs think tanks. And so, for the most part, they're going on about our enemies and what we have to do about our enemies. And we need more military spending. We got to beef up the defenses. Like, recently they got, I think, Biden to commit $1 trillion to upgrading our nuclear weapons. Well, we already got enough nuclear weapons to blow the world up 3 or 4 times, but we're going to spend $1 trillion getting more. So this is the way it works, Rashid. You can't expect any kind of rational decision to be made because the interest groups have their own agendas, and it forces the members in the government to support those agendas. Otherwise, they're cut off without money. And this is the situation. You got to remember that Supreme Court case. It wasn't that long ago that basically said the corporations have the right to buy the government. And they have. That's what they've done.
I see from our conversation that these people are not long-term strategic thinkers due to the fact that, yeah, you may have some short-term gains, but at what cost? You lose your economy, you lose your military might, you lose your political clout for these short-term gains. And it seems like right now they are pushing everything to explode to the explosion point in the Middle East. I was talking to a few one of my friends, and they were telling me about how Russia is arming Iran to the teeth, how China is arming Iran to the teeth, because Iran stands as a bulwark against them in the underbelly of Russia and China. Why would America take on this task when she has been beaten? We're on the 4th NATO military that has been crushed by Russia in Ukraine. They destroyed the Ukrainian army 3 times, and they're on the 4th time. And they are destroying U.S. weaponry, Western weaponry, and yet America feels the need to fight a 2-war front and even push towards antagonizing China. Where is the strategic thinking, and where is the sanity in the policies of the U.S. and the Western leaders?
Yeah. Well, it's hard to see any strategic thinking or any sanity. But again, Rashid, I'll tell you, it's the same answer. You can't, if you're a member of the House or Senate or even the president, and you start thinking and acting strategically, then you're not following the interests of the military security complex. You're not following the interests of Israel. And so that prevents you from being a strategic thinker, because when you get out of step, you're finished.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's look, Trump was finished, wasn't he? His whole term, he was in trouble. Remember, Russiagate, there were 2 impeachments. There was Strippergate, Documents Gate, January 6th, insurrection. well, how can he function as a president? And that's because he was out of step with the power.